I'd like to call to order a somewhat special meeting, not a strategic plan meeting. It's not a special meeting, not a regular meeting. It's just technically speaking, special meeting for August 30th, 6 p.m. And can I get a roll call, please?
Councilmember Lowenstein.
Here.
Councilmember Horvath, not here yet. Councilmember Obaji.
Here.
Councilmember MD.
Here. I'm not on yet, I know.
And Mayor Pro Tem Narenheim.
Here.
Thank you.
All right. We're going to do a salute the flag, and then we'll do a moment of silence, brief moment of silence afterwards. On three. 1, 2, 3.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, thank you. All right, while we don't have any presentations or proclamations, I'll give every council member a second for a update, if they announcements for their districts. Councilmember Lowenstein.
Yeah, thank you. We had a good community meeting last Wednesday, and we talked about a number of things, one of which was the most controversial was the potential dog run over at Zuliger Park. So I'd love to hear from residents that live in that area. You're for or against the dog run. And also I walked the waterfront the other day with Senator Ben Allen and Mayor Brand. Was able to show him that those are state lands, that we're hoping that the state of California helps fund those lands. And so it was a great visit. I thank Senator Allen for coming down. And that's it. Thank you.
All right, Councilmember Obaji.
I mentioned the Boy Scout thing.
Oh, yes. Councilmember MD and I actually had a great Eagle Scout Court of Honor the other day that we presented proclamations for. And it was great because it was two brothers. So it's the first one I'd been to where it was actually two brothers. So thank you. Thanks for reminding me.
And Councilmember Horvath.
Nothing for me.
Councilmember Obaji.
All right, I want to say a big thank you to Public Works, my client specifically, for getting in the playground pad at Andrews Park. To many parents' delight. Actually, if you go out like 4 or 5 p.m., Andrews Park is packed now with parents and their little kids. So it's awesome. We appreciate that. And I understand that it also got installed at Anderson Park. So I thank Council members Narenheim and Lowenstein for budgeting for the Andrews Park playground improvement during not this last year's budget, but the first budget when I got on council. Thank you.
And Councilmember MD.
I had my community meeting and I got to say I was a little worried because I thought, oh my, a lot of the regulars weren't coming, but I still had 45 to 60 people there. So I was really thrilled. And we didn't have quite anything as controversial as a dog park, but there's a conversation about, of course, parking's an issue and a couple of other things that I'm already working with staff. So it's all good. And I'll thank my client also for power washing the bathrooms at the aviation park. So thank you very much for that and for continuing to work on the scout houses. I appreciate that. And just a note on the brothers that were eagling, that particular troop, those two brothers are number, I think I'm going to get these numbers wrong, but are number 98 and 95 in their number of eagles for that particular troop. They already have in line number 100 of their Eagle Scouts. And as Councilman Lowenstein pointed out, only 4% of the nation's Boy Scouts become Eagles. And we're at number 100 in our troop in North Redondo. So that's really something that's pretty amazing. So.
Cool, thank you. And for myself, I had my my online community meeting last week, which was great. We had a lot to go over, but our next community meeting in person will be the normal second Saturday of the month, which is September 10th. We have that Alta Vista, and we have a new fire chief as well. You'll be seeing him tonight. Chief Butler, came from LA City, seeing a lot of him, getting a lot of new faces here in Redondo, a lot of new movement. So without further ado, we will be moving forward to the next item, which is approval of the order of agenda. So before we approve this item of notation, so while this is kind of a special meeting, next time, like for Thursday, for instance, we can do a special meeting. Can we do just that one item, not our regular agenda item, so we don't have to go through like consent calendar items and?
It's already published.
Yeah, I know, but not for next time around. Will we just have one item on the agenda like tonight? That way we can kind of speed things up. If that council,
You mean in the fall, in the spring, the next
well,
strategic
next
plan?
strategic plan, if we do workshops, budget workshops, any other one item, that way we don't have to go through all the administrative items and slows us down.
So noted, I'll review with the city clerk.
So, thank you. So do we have a motion to approve the order of agenda?
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
No unanimous vote. So do we have any, we don't have agency recess, do we have any blue folder items emailed or?
We do.
Presentations.
Distributed on item J1, we had an email communication from Public Safety Commissioner Gall. And that is the only item for blue folders.
Perfect. Do we have a motion?
Second.
All right.
I'd give it to Mr. Lowenstein.
No, thank you.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
See, it doesn't take long. All right, unanimous. So moving on to consent calendar items. We actually don't have anything on the consent calendar. So actually we have to approve the affidavit of posting. So we'd have to do that. So motion approved. Is there a second?
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, passed unanimously. Which brings us to public participation on non-agenda items. Just so everyone knows, we get 30 minutes on this. And the way we do it, we do orange cards first, then we do Zoom or e-comments, so Zoom comments, then we do e-comments, then we go back to in-person if there's anyone left to go. It's 6:08, so we'll do 6:09 right now, so we'll get 30 minutes from now. And the first one is Douglas Seeker, and after that will be Elaine Seeker. Come on down.
Consider this a strategic insight. This council will soon be deciding what kinds of mechanical and plumbing equipment, such as AC units and the like, are to be allowed in residential side setbacks. I would like to present another concern this evening for your consideration before that decision is made. And that concern is of legacy cost. Legacy costs can be more than just financial. They can be physical, psychological, and quality of life issues as well. This past March, our neighbor had a tankless water heater installed in their garage, and its mechanical exhaust vent was placed into and through the garage wall facing the side setback. The original rooftop vent used for standard water heaters was not used, and I was told by that contractor that no noise would be coming through this vent. This proved to be untrue. Every time the tankless water heater is activated, a high-pitched whistling sound emanates through this vent. This intrusive noise can be heard through our closed bedroom and living room windows, even much more when they're opened. Once again, as we did concerning AC units and water softening machines that were placed in both of our neighbors' side setback in past years, we contacted code enforcement, building and planning department, the director of community services, the city attorney's office, and finally the city manager and police department seeking relief from this noise. After nearly 5 months of waiting, we called back to the planning department and was told the tankless water heater and its vent were approved because its noise was under 50 decibels. Okay, well, how was that decibel level determined if our city does not have any sound monitoring or sound recording equipment? Is the city just believing the manufacturer's claim for decibels produced by their equipment? These claims cannot be verified, much less trusted. So now we have a forever legacy noise to put up with, as will the next residents of our home will have to endure once we no longer reside here. Is that right? Is that fair? That one neighbor would have to endure any amount of noise for the sheer convenience of another neighbor when There are clearly other viable alternatives for placing noise-making, mechanical, or plumbing equipment somewhere else. You must definitely know by now that if the proposal to allow noise-making, mechanical, and plumbing equipment, such as air conditioning units and the like, inside residential side setbacks is approved, it will cause unnecessary negative and divisive consequences between neighbors and lower the quality of life for residents who value peace and quiet, as well as having fresh air coming into their open windows. Thank you. I'd like to submit this for record, please.
Is there a second?
Thank you.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All right.
How many copies did you give me?
All right. Ms. Elaine Seeker.
Good evening. It has been alluded that no one should be able to tell the property owner what they can or cannot do with their own property. That ideology is misleading in that Redondo Beach has a municipal code full of rules and safety regulations, ensuring that every resident's rights are not encroached upon whether they rent or own any type of property. Reckless disregard as to where mechanical or plumbing equipment that makes noise is placed on one's property should not be anyone's right. All residents have a right not to have their quality of life infringed upon through the escalation and/or compounding of neighborhood noise pollution. All residents' mental and physical health and happiness should be upheld and respected equally, especially when it comes to unwanted noise pollution emitted through mechanical and plumbing equipment, such as is the case with air conditioner units and water softener machines. All mechanical and plumbing equipment of any sort can be situated in those areas where there is the least negative noise impact to surrounding neighbors. The residential side setback has been duly noted as to have the most propensity for negative noise impacts and needs to be regarded as a sanctuary safe space that would otherwise be heavily impacted by noise. Neighbors unduly subjected to residential side setback noise coming from mechanical or plumbing equipment who have no recourse except to move are being put at an unfair economic advantage. No one should have to bear the mental, physical, and financial costs at the benefit of another. All residents need to be cognizant of how they contribute to noise pollution, and the City Council needs to be diligent, fair, and mindful of the decisions made in this regard. Noise pollution is an often overlooked and disregarded health concern, contributing to or exacerbating stress, anxiety, agitation, and a whole host of serious illnesses and disease. No one should have to close all their windows to keep out an invading and intrusive noise for extended periods of time, depriving them of fresh air, their mental and physical health, and peace and quiet. This would not be quality of life living, nor would it be fair or equitable to those affected neighbors who would be forced to make adjustments they may not even be able to implement or to even be able to afford. Noise pollution results in our quality of life being impaired and our health and happiness being infringed upon, and our municipal code should uphold against that being so in all ways possible. Thank you for keep listening to my complaints.
Thank you.
Submit this to.
Yeah, motion to receive and file.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
There are also 7 copies.
All right. Is there anyone else who would like to speak in person before we go to Zoom? Going once? Okay. Any Zoom comments?
Let me check really quick. We have 2 people that are signed in, but they need to raise their hand if they wish to speak during this portion of the agenda. If not, we'll move on. There are no e-comments. And no, they're not raising their hand. So we'll go.
Okay, thank you. All right, so if anyone else wants to speak here in person, going once, going twice, and onwards we go to the next item. So this brings us to the strategic plan, item J1. And we have someone on Zoom here. Mr. Wazanski, you want to do the intro and kind of take it from here?
Sure. I think we're at this portion of the meeting, we'll be turning over to Eric Douglas, our facilitator. It's great to have him back. And with that, Eric, I'll let you sort of kick it off and we'll pass it back and forth.
Thank you, Mike, and good evening, council members and Mayor Pro Tem Ehrenheim. It's great to be here. I look forward to being with you in person on Thursday for round 2 of this strategic planning session. But tonight, I'm here with my colleague, Carrie Riley, who will be helping us by taking notes. We have a number of things to get through tonight, but before we do so, perhaps we could have a quick round of introductions. And Mike, maybe I can turn it back to you.
Yes, absolutely. We can do that, Eric. With that, I'm going to have Elizabeth and Luke pass the microphone around. We're going to introduce all of our department heads that are here for Eric's benefit as much as anybody else. First up, looks like Brandy Forbes.
Yes, I'm Brandy Forbes. I'm the Director of Community Development.
My name is Greg Kapovich. I'm the Waterfront Director.
Good evening, I'm Ted Simon, the Public Works Director.
And our newly appointed mayor.
Good afternoon, I'm Patrick Butler, Interim Fire Chief in Redondo Beach, and grateful to be here.
Chris Benson, Information Technology Director.
Diane Strickfaden, Human Resources Director.
Good evening, Mario Fizlich, Captain of Support Services, Police Department.
And then that's it probably. And then Luke and Elizabeth, if you could introduce yourselves too.
Assistant to the City Manager.
And I'm Luke Smoody, also Assistant to the City Manager.
Thank you, Eric.
My name is
Thank
Vicki
you, Mike.
Kronberger. Can I chime in for the city clerk's office?
Of course.
I'm a Chief Deputy City Clerk, and if we have any questions specific to Eleanor, she is in her office working on consolidated election precincts right now.
And Cheryl.
And Cheryl Park, Assistant City Attorney.
Okay.
So it sounds like that wraps it up for introductions in the room, and thank you, everybody. Again, Eric Douglas is my name, and I'm here with my colleague, Carrie Riley, who's behind the scenes taking notes. Before we jump into an overview of the strategic planning process, I'm wondering if there's any public comment on this item.
We have 3 members, oh, there we go, on Zoom. So the first member, if you'd like, we're going to take public comment now?
Yeah,
Yes,
typically
please.
at the start of the strategic planning session, we let members of the public weigh in before we begin the
You want to
process.
do in person first?
Probably should.
Is there anyone here? Anyone here in person? No? Okay.
And to be clear for the community, those members who are on Zoom, there are going to be other opportunities. We built this into the process last time and we think it was effective. There's a number of occasion where a member of the public can weigh in and provide comments. So if they don't want to kick it off now as a general overview, they have the ability later after we go through our goal setting process to weigh in as well. So our agenda is peppered with public comment to allow for maximum community input. So for those who are online, there will be other opportunities if they're not comfortable speaking now.
Okay. The gentleman put his hand down that did ask to be recognized.
Okay.
So there's no further public comment then, I'm assuming. We can go on to just a quick overview of the strategic planning process. As you recall, I was with you all in January for our initial 6-month strategic planning 2-night engagement. We're back again here in late August with a look ahead for the next 6 months for the city. As you all know, the mayor and the council have this rolling 3-year strategic planning process to carry out the mission of the city. Like all strategic plans, it establishes important goals that the city wants to achieve. It provides important guidance for the staff, for the budgeting process, and for measuring the performance of the city. So, as I said, this is the first of 2 strategic planning meetings. There's a series of things we want to do tonight. The first is to just recap, as we did in January, this last 6 months worth of accomplishments. I'll be asking first the Mayor Pro Tem and council members to share with us your thoughts about the significant accomplishments. After we do that, we'll ask city staff to add their own thoughts about that. I will then facilitate a SWOT analysis of strengths, weaknesses, opportunities and threats analysis with the Mayor Pro Tem and council members. And then we'll take a look at the existing 3-year strategic goal framework. There are 6 goals. We'll talk about those and make sure those still reflect the important priorities of the elected members here. We'll ask for public comment at that point, and then we'll get right into looking at specific objectives you have within each goal. So let me start with this year's accomplishments. And so it's great when I can see on screen the members of the council, so I can not only hear you, but see you. And so let me just turn to those who are present and ask, maybe I can start with Councilmember MD and ask you to just kick it off with a couple of accomplishments from your perspective over the past 6 months.
I think we've done a lot of great jobs for planning what we're going to be doing in the future on different parts of the city, including, Artesia Boulevard, the harbor, the Galleria, but one of the biggest sticking points right now is housing and how we're getting mandated by the state. We've done everything on our strategic plan. The staff's been really good on keeping on task with that. And I really appreciate everything they've done.
That's great. And so just in terms of accomplishments, what I hear you listing there is really the accomplishments that are directly tied to the strategic planning process that the council has gone through. So thank you. Councilmember Obaji?
Generally agree. I think I'm impressed that every one of the items on the strategic plan pretty much has come back. And I thank our city manager for making sure that happens and his supporting staff. I like the pace with which the city is moving forward on things and the energy that the city is bringing, city staff's bringing to all these, directives, if you will. And I think we're making a lot of progress in the city. I'm very proud of that.
Great, thank you. Councilmember Horvath?
Yeah, I would just say we've been successful in not only achieving our short-term goals from January, but some of our longer-term goals and priorities that we've had over the years. We're getting recognized for some of those things that we're doing, and we're still finding ways to creatively bring in funds from outside the city to help effectuate those programs.
Thank you. Councilmember Lowenstein.
Yeah, I would agree with my colleagues up here on the dais. A couple of things that stick out are the fire department assessment. I think that was very comprehensive. And the website, I know we're in the process of actually revamping the website. And there's talk about actually internal communications. And I think we've teed up a lot of things. For example, the city infrastructure is, I believe that's objective number 4. Is that correct? That's
goal number 4. Yes, correct.
That's a huge lift. There's a lot of projects, and we've actually funded a lot of the things that we're talking about, which is a huge step in the right direction. Things like the waterfront, Seaside Lagoon. We're on the process of securing more funding for that. So yeah, I feel positive. And as other people had said, we addressed many of these things during our meetings. So we're staying on track. So yeah.
Great, thank you. Mayor Pro Tem,
So I look at the lists and I look at the things that have been done. What's striking for me is how important the strategic plan is to get these things done, to get these things on a list, to get us done. And I think we as a council has been good to not start adding on a ton of new items to start the distraction process, which I think is really important. I see a lot of things that we've gotten done that are laying the groundwork for other things. So that to me is the most important things. For instance, the Veterans Park, RFP, the website, moving that forward, charter review, they're moving forward, and the volunteer coordination, because a lot of these things are getting the community involved, and the volunteer coordination I think is really important from the community side to get them involved, to get the community information and their input. So, and that's going to line up again with the website and a couple other places. So that's important.
Great, thank you. Before I turn to the city staff, I'm just wanting to make sure that council members, as you heard yourselves talk, if anybody has any additional accomplishments you want to just throw out and make sure we capture?
Well, I think one of the things that's been interesting, that's not even mentioned here, is besides the fact that we have a new city manager, is we have a lot of new staff, and they've picked up the ball quickly, done terrific work. I'm ecstatic with our team. I think it's a great team. And it's not necessarily reflected in the strategic plan directly, but a lot of these things are done with basically the efforts of those new folks. So.
Great, thank you.
Councilmember Waji?
I'm very proud of our website community planning group that Commissioner Lamb is part of. I hear back from her regularly about their progress there, the interviewing that they've done, the 2 phases of interviews that they've done to secure a firm, and the attention to detail that they're paying to it. Like we got a recommendation this last week from a resident as to things that the website should do, passed it on to her, says that's a great idea, we'll make sure to incorporate that, and so on and so forth. So I think it's a great, and she also pulled in a professor from USC into the group who's a Redondo resident. So I have no doubt that eventually when we do reach a final product on the website, it's going to be fantastic.
Great. Anyone else on the dais?
Nope, we're good.
Okay. Well, let me turn it to city staff. And Mike, I don't know if you want to kick it off or ask some of your colleagues on the city staff to kick it off.
Absolutely. Maybe I'll kick it off. I'd sort of like the flow here. I want to say, thank you to the council for all the support. And Nils, that last remark, we very much appreciate. I think the strategic plan does allow us to align our workflow with realistic resources. And by doing that, we actually can get these things done. I think our tendency historically has been to maybe try to do all things at all times and really advance none of them, right? And that's what we're resisting here. And I think that's what the strategic plan above all else allows us to do, is focus those efforts and make sure that we're applying our time and energy in the way that the council collectively would like to see. So we very much appreciate that attention to that process. And we looked at it, actually did a little bit of analysis in evaluating the metrics. We completed 35 initiatives and I think are on track for another 20 in this particular strategic plan. That is by far the most I think we have ever accomplished in a 6-7 month period. And that doesn't include all the other little things that we're doing along the way: the budget, the capital projects, the staff items, the resolutions, the contracts, all the things that collectively the departments carry the weight on. So, I could sit here and spend a lot of time talking about all the things we're really proud of doing. I don't want to necessarily bog us down if that's the case, but did want to mention that we've got 35 plus accomplished objectives and more to come. And I would echo the remark Councilman Lowenstein made about staff. That's where it really all begins. The thing I'm most proud of is the people we've brought into our organization, the people that we continue to have that work with us. Luke and Elizabeth, our assistant to the city managers, are new to the organization relatively in this role. We've got Chief Butler that's just starting with us yesterday. Really pleased to bring him on board. Greg, Waterfront Director, new to the team since we've really begun this process. Ted and Brandy have been around for a while. Chris has been around for a while. Mario's been with us for a little while. Diane, but everybody that's here, Mike, Lori, Andrea, we've got just a great team, and we're very appreciative of all their hard work. We've added a new chief building official who's doing a really good job, I think, tuning up our customer service at the building counter. We continue to bring resources into the organization. We've got a conditional offer out that's been accepted to a new library director. We have, I believe, a conditional offer that's out and maybe been accepted by a new cultural arts manager. So a lot of exciting things happening here. And what we're trying to do is bring energy to the organization to really execute what you all as the council would like to see accomplished as an extension of the community and the residents. So, I'll summarize it that way. Every one of these items on this list is important, and we're pleased with what we've accomplished and what's still to come. So with that, I'll turn it over to any staff member who wants to weigh in on specific projects they're proud of. I know Brandy's had a number of really fun initiatives that aren't even on the plan that I'm sure she would like to talk about.
Sure. To talk about something to celebrate, the ACAP, as we're moving forward with that, we've had the community meeting, and it's great to have Greg on board so that he can help continue it moving forward. But how exciting that we got an award for that particular plan from the American Planning Association LA chapter, and hopefully will be considered for the state at their conference this fall. We worked on the cannabis ordinance. There were a lot of, as Councilwoman MD mentioned, there are a lot of things that were state housing requirements for us that were not on the list that we have addressed, such as adopting the housing element for the third time. Hopefully the third time is a charm to get that certified. And as well, our ADU ordinance for the Coastal Commission, that they are giving us that leniency to require the replacement parking. So there's a lot of, things that may not seem like the exciting stuff, but we have been working on to get done.
Thank you. I'll start off with likely the biggest thing we've got going on at the waterfront, which is the King Harbor Public Amenities Plan. And gosh, we've had, numerous outreach, a lot of surveys. We had 2 work group meetings, and we have 100% draft at this point. We're ready to go to Harbor Commission on September 12th. So that in and of itself is a pretty big accomplishment. Speaking of which, Seaside Lagoon's a pretty big component of that. We had an RFP presented to you guys, and we had it go out. We're going to be interviewing finalists September 7th to try to select a contractor to kind of carry that through. We've negotiated 2 beach life contracts, which is a great thing for the waterfront. It brings a lot of people down to the area spending money. When it comes to the educational facility, we've heard from 3 kind of nonprofit groups that could potentially locate there. We're recently helping out Julie Cole with the Waterfront Education find a new location for her nonprofit at this point. We brought back the falconry contract to the waterfront to try to deal with nuisance birds. We renegotiated with Cosmont for economic development purposes. We're doing quite a lot. We've done about 8 leaseholds, brought in new businesses, and we're talking to 3 more to bring them into the city. So quite a lot's going on. We're doing a lot.
Thanks, Greg. For Public Works, actually, we touch a lot of the city departments, city facilities. We're practically everywhere in the city. Our operations has parks maintenance, it has facility maintenance, it has roadways, and we also have a very robust capital improvement program. So I've broken down a few of these, and I'll start off with our Parks Division. As Councilmember Lowenstein mentioned, the dog runs, we've actually implemented a couple of the dog runs throughout the city. Andrews Park, Alta Vista are 2 of the primary ones. We've created the concept for Zuliger Park, and we'll see where that goes as far as implementation. The playground rubberized surface, the padding at the playgrounds, we've replaced several of them. Aviation Playground, Andrews Park, and at Turtle Park. We've also done some landscaping. It's infrastructure that may not be a capital program on its own, but at our city entry marker at Catalina Pacific Coast Highway, we have the big fountain under the Edison right-of-way. We've re-landscaped that entire area, as well as Gateway Park, which is the park that separates us and the city of Hermosa Beach. And one of the other priorities, strategic priorities for the council is tree planting and the benefits of that. We've planted 170 trees in the last fiscal year, so up until June 30th. We've got plans to plant 200 more trees this coming fiscal year, and we've already started with 24 of them since July the 1st. So that's just a few for now, and I'll come back with more later.
Normally, just to remind everybody, we would do these ad hoc, but because we're in this setting where we're kind of trying to be efficient with time and resource here, I think we're just passing the mic from department to department. And Chief Butler, we won't hold you to too many of the accomplishments. I don't know what the last 24 hours
Day
has
2,
been.
yeah. It's Patrick Butler, interim fire chief, Redondo Beach, and thank you to Mike and the council for your confidence in me. I have kind of hit the ground running, and one of the themes you guys have talked about a lot is using volunteers. And as a result of the action from this council, last Friday, we had the first Explorer post in the history of the Redondo Beach Fire Department, which are young cadets, young men and women from the communities and around that are involved in the fire department and find a career either in fire service or other areas where they can, augment our ability to go out there and, basically be another set of eyes and ears in the community and give them skills in life. So that's one thing I want to talk about. The next thing is we did records management system in the fire department. It's a big item you guys push. I know you talked about websites, but for us, we're using data from the department to be able to push it out and have it publicly accessible so folks can see what we're doing, where response times are, and everything they would want to know about their department. We're working with our emergency management committee here in the fire department to ensure that we are prepared, respond, and recover from disasters. And in the assessment of the 68 recommendations, we have about 28 of them complete, right about 40-some% of them. They're at varying degrees, but I'll have a further report on that. In terms of upcoming public venues that we've talked about, Beach Life's coming up, and our inspectors have been working with other city leaders to make sure it's safe for the public. And lastly, I want to thank Chief Kaufman and Chief Castro, who really set a solid pace for me. Really, I felt it was pretty seamless for me to step in. And I think in terms of working with the community and the committees and the council, I had a saying in the fire department for many years. After 9/11, we talked a lot about interoperability. And I always said that interoperability was not about a technology, but a behavior of how we all interact with each other. And so with that, I just want to give you a brief overview. And lastly, our high school CPR program, which is part of community engagement for the city, is going to start pretty soon. We're going to be teaching CPR to the high school students. And we had a save last year of a 42-year-old woman in your community who is doing a video on what the Redondo Beach Fire Department did for her in terms of all the technology, the response times, and the equipment that this council and this community has funded. And with that, that's all I have right now to report on the notes I have.
Thanks, Pat.
Good evening, Chris Benson, Information Technology Director. What we do is not generally public.
Too close. Start to hide the irony.
But I'll be brief.
They're totally messing with you, Chris.
Yeah, I know.
It's like the IT guy gets up and then the mics go
Moving it around. I'll find it.
Maybe give him the other mic.
I'm waiting for Doug to.
You're getting.
Chris, are you wearing a wire? Is that the brown?
So just a few things. Council approved a new unified communication system.
The other mic was working just fine. Can we just swap the mics?
Probably hear it.
Okay, much better. Unified communication system replacement for our legacy phone system, and we're going to be kicking off that project in the next week or two. Our network infrastructure equipment replacement was approved last August. The equipment is expected to ship in October of this year. So we've been waiting all this time for that equipment. We did get some wireless equipment, which we did install, sort of kind of commingled Wi-Fi system right now. We did move from renew our Microsoft Enterprise Agreement 3-year. What's significant about that is our council allowed us to move from G3 to G5, which enables the city to take advantage of new security features in Office 365. We implemented several Microsoft Office 365 security enhancements the past couple of months. Continued support of the council chambers. Believe it or not, it is done, but it's been very staff intensive for IT to keep this place, not keep it running, but get it going and stabilized. It's actually quite staff intensive. And then we started our IT department organizational study yesterday. So that'll be in the city manager's hands in hopefully 6 to 8 weeks.
Good evening. Good evening. Speaking of the staff that was recently, everyone's been seeing around, I wanted to point out that HR has conducted 82 recruitments in the past 6 months, and that is more than any full year in recent memory, all while continuing to administer ongoing but yet tapering COVID regulations. We also recently entered into a contract with Ralph Anderson and Associates to begin a targeted class and comp study for benchmark positions. That is underway. And another success that you'll be seeing in full detail next week is that we recently completed negotiations on a recruitment and retention bonus program with the Teamsters unit, and that will be coming to council next Tuesday.
Good evening again, Mario Fizlich with the Police Department. So when Chief Kaufman came to our department, he focused a lot on mentoring, coaching, and growing and recession planning. So we definitely created a deep bench within the police department, and that comes to light when you mention staffing. That's the first thing that's on my list is staffing. So within, we promoted a new chief of police, Chief Joe Hoffman, 1 captain promotion, 2 lieutenant promotions, and 3 sergeants. So that's all within our department and well qualified, well deserved, and we're happy to have them part of our supervision. Yeah, I have 3 pages here of accomplishments. They're all important, but I'm not going to go through all 3 pages. But what is impressive, I've been at Redondo for 25 years now. And so when Mike was answering, he's like, Mario's been here for a little bit. I'm sure he meant probably as a captain because I got promoted 2 years ago, but 25 years is coming close to the end for me. But I look at this, what's amazing is what our Special Operations Bureau has done. And what they've done is going to our community services unit. They've been a part of approximately 35 engagement events in the community in the last 6 months. And it's a long list of what they've done, and it's absolutely incredible. Another one is our quality of life unit. So quality of life is important in the city of Redondo Beach, and we created and implemented a brand new quality of life unit. And within that quality of life unit, there's a sergeant, there's 2 officers, 1 Department of Mental Health clinician, there's 3 full-time code enforcement officers, and 2 part-time code enforcement officers. As we know, quality of life is important. They're extremely busy. They're used a lot. They're our go-to, and it's you really don't know how much you actually need something until you actually implement it and you have it and you see how much you actually use it. So they love what they do. We love having them, and they're improving the life for our citizens in our city.
And Mario, that was a joke when I said for a little while. Yeah.
Good evening, Council. I'm going to go ahead and present the accomplishments for our Library Services Department as well as our Community Services Department. For Library Services, they reinstated in-person adult programming and also continue to offer virtual Zoom adult programming. They restored hours of service at both our libraries. They applied and received a grant for open access to extend hours at the North Branch. And they did update rules of conduct for city libraries back in January. And for our Community Services Department, for our transit division, they ordered 8 replacement buses for the Beach Cities transit fleet. They executed service agreements for the transit center for security services, as well as property management and maintenance services. For the Performing Arts Center, they were able to complete the purchase and installation of a new high-definition laser projection system. And then they also completed the purchase and installation of loudspeakers and amplifiers, which it completes the modernization of the entire digital sound system over there. And then lastly, for the Recreation Division, they hosted a virtual job opportunity fair, and that was promoted through Eventbrite and social media. They also implemented the use of QR codes on their banners and flyers so that they would be able to allow applicants to go directly to the HR website. And then the Seaside Lagoon was open 7 days a week for the summer. And they also extended hours where they, for the Wilderness Park for the summer. So that's it.
Thanks, Elizabeth. And then I think Luke and Elizabeth themselves, I'll go ahead and cover our office a bit. It was mentioned the website process, and thank you to the subcommittee that's involved with that, Nils and Todd. That's been a big help. And our working group, we have a member of our working group here, Sheila, which it's been an elaborate process. I think we had 19 different firms, I believe, provide proposals originally. We've whittled it down to 5, and we'll try to go from there. So great interest and a lot of hard work there, and appreciate our staff's efforts there. And just everything that's on this list tends to be touched by our department. And again, a big thank you to Luke and Elizabeth for all their support in all the various areas that we do business here in the city. So I think, Eric, that's probably enough, unless the attorney's office or the clerk's office would like to comment.
Well, we have a few accomplishments to list. For the city clerk's office, we helped to facilitate the establishment of the Charter Review Advisory Committee, who is, I think, in their 4th meeting. They're up and running. We've also implemented an update to the city clerk's or the city council's rules of conduct to include policy pertaining to council teleconferencing to allow members who are traveling to participate in public meetings. And also we're almost completed with the update of the campaign finance limits ordinance revisions, and that's up for city council review on the 6th.
And I'd also like to touch on a few items. There's been continued success of the homeless court and the pallet shelter program. We've applied for and received over 1.7 million to combat homelessness in the city. And lastly, we obtained a published case that helps cities defend against slip and fall cases in Nunez versus the city of Redondo Beach.
Well, Mike, thank you. And thank you to everybody for those impressive accomplishments. I know my colleague, Carrie Riley, has been working behind the scenes to try to capture all of that. And Carrie, I don't know if you feel you can share with us on your screen that list that you've compiled.
Yes,
great.
For the last couple of departments, I had a bit of trouble following along, but I will show what I got. One moment, please. Okay, so
beautiful.
Yeah, I generally captured most of what everyone said. The two areas that are that have some hole, or three areas that have some holes, for the library services, community services, and city clerk. But
Well, thank you, Carrie. Applause to you for just capturing all of that. And it's, again, an impressive list. And I'm sure, Mike, you and your team will fill in the holes where.
Yes, we will. We'll add to that as part of the minutes. And really, that's the whole effort here, is just to remind ourselves and look back and celebrate our accomplishments. It's a busy season. The council has directed a lot of work, and hopefully we've delivered on most of that work, and we'll continue to work on those items that we haven't. So that's the reason for this process, is just to remind ourselves that we continue to be busy, and it makes me tired just kind of looking at it. So, but yeah, otherwise, we're very proud of what we've accomplished this last period.
Thank you, Carrie, for sharing your screen. I'm going to move now into the next piece of strategic planning for tonight's agenda, which is to look at strengths and weaknesses, opportunities and threats analysis. I'm going to mainly focus, in fact, I'm going to entirely focus on the mayor, pro tem, and the council members' views on, first, the strengths of the city of Redondo Beach. Again, strengths are the significant things that are under your control and are assets that you want to protect. And so I'm going to share my screen and try in real time to capture these things as we hear from you. So let me go ahead and start perhaps again with Council Member MD, and just again a significant strength or two, if you could, please.
Strength or two, we have plenty. Number one is staff.
Well, I would ask you to share with your colleagues the wealth of strengths.
So it's definitely staff. The amount of professionalism and commitment that our staff has is just simply amazing. And that's by far, I'm constantly impressed by everyone that works here. And the ones who I'm not impressed with seem to go away quickly. So anyway, so good on you, on the city manager, making sure that happens. External, we have a lot of, we are not a bubble.
Let's just stick with strengths if we can.
Okay, strengths, okay.
Go one at a time with strengths. And again,
Okay,
if I could just ask you to limit it to one or two,
That'll be
please,
my
council
first.
member.
You guys go ahead. I'll
Okay.
share with you guys.
All right.
Okay.
Oh, sorry.
And could I have the video back on the council members, please?
You got to stop screen sharing, I think.
I got to stop screen sharing. Okay.
Maybe, or put more, click that like window where it has.
Yeah, if you don't do the screen share, then we can't see what you're writing.
Okay. Then we will do screen share and I will not see you. That's fine. So Councilmember Obaji, a strength.
Strength is our Public Works Department and the responsiveness to access to Comcate. They're super fast, super on it, and they follow up. They let you know that it's been received, confirmed, then they're working on it, then it's completed. And I've seen that occur with like Perry Park Senior Center sign was messed up. They got it ordered, they got it in place. Red curb, a resident complained about that. They got it painted promptly. Another resident complained about a sidewalk, basically a trip and fall hazard. They fixed it quickly, so they've been awesome. Another strength I'd say is our police department in this, where the world has gotten a little more high crime. they've been super fast, super responsive, and they roll out hard when there is an issue in Redondo Beach.
Great. May move on to your colleague, Councilmember Hogarth. Still sticking with strengths.
Sure, and you're specific to internal strengths here. I mean, clearly everybody's hitting on the staff, but I think what we should just say is that as a result of that, we are a full service city. And so we offer our residents a very high quality of life as a result, and are able to keep up with the high demands that they continue to put to us.
Great, thank you. Councilmember Lowenstein.
Yeah, I think we're fiscally strong. Fiscally sound is probably the better way of putting it. And we're prudent with our budget and how we spend money. I think where we put our priorities in terms of budgets is for very important things that the community request. And also we take care of the things that absolutely are necessary, such as public safety and infrastructure. So I think that makes us a very strong city in terms of fiscal prudence.
Great, thank you. Mayor Pro Tem.
So I'd say in the last, since we last met, there's a new energy here at City Hall where employees are showing up and doing more than what they normally self-expected to do. So they're going above and beyond to fix or move forward, find a problem, or a problem comes to them. They're thinking about it in a more strategic way of solving it versus what was in the past. We're just going to deal with this problem right now and move on.
Beautiful. So let me go back around and just see if there's any other strengths that members of the council would like to list before we go on to internal weaknesses.
I want to, I mean, when I said city staff professional, I kind of just was doing an overarching, but if we're going to break it down, we cannot ignore the fact that the attorney's office and all the work they've done to truly solve homelessness and approach our quality of life issues here in Redondo Beach. We're a model for the rest of California. We're being copied throughout the state, and we're showing the way that this is possible to be able to solve that. And that is truly from the city attorney's office. And it's also, they didn't just stop on actually making the action items happen. They actually brought in all this money with the help of COG and certain council members who went and advocated. But you just can't ignore that huge accomplishment of the city attorney's office.
Great, thank you. Any other strengths that council members would like to highlight?
Sure. I think our fire department has proven resilient. They had a microscope put on them relative to this assessment, and they've also, they've been flexible, I think, and thinking and getting the results of the assessment. And frankly, they're working hard because I see them training all the time at Fire Station 2 with a flipped over car. I see their fire trucks and rescue vehicles out all the time. So they're working hard, and the residents appreciate them.
Thank you, council member. Anyone else on the topic of strengths? So let me go on to look at internal weaknesses. Again, these would be, another way of thinking about this would be simply just areas that need improvement within the city. So let me start, if I can, with you, Mayor Pro Tem Ehrenheim.
You know, the glaring weakness that I see right now is it's not our IT infrastructure. It's our, I don't know how to, it's our inability to, and it's a problem in all of government, or all where you're stuck in the past and you're trying to break out of that mold and modernize to the future. So as you get these systems moving together from the old way of doing the process to a new online based system. So I guess the weakness is breaking that mold of the old process. And it's both a institutional issue, and it's an infrastructure issue with, you got to get the money, you got to get the resources, got to get the vendors. It's not easy. It's a big, large project overall.
So please go ahead and correct me if I'm not capturing it correctly in your mind.
Yeah, I think that's the best way to put it. Moving from old paradigm information, yeah.
Cool. To you, Councilmember Lowenstein, what would be another weakness you might point out?
Yeah, I would say political uncertainty and instability. Two things. One is a potential recall election, as well as a mayor who's ill and is on leave. So that creates a lot of uncertainty, I think, in the city leadership. I think that keeps us from, reaching our potential in some ways and makes it difficult in some degrees in terms of relationships.
Thank you. Councilmember Hobart.
I would say, which is normal, I guess, in this day and age, but staff turnover, attrition, the fact that the state has imposed so many mandates on us, we sometimes just don't have enough staff, to effectively deal with it. So everybody's jumping through hoops to do their normal jobs, but also deal with the requirements that are thrown at us on a daily basis. So our strengths are that we're doing it, but our weakness is that it's out of our control, and these are things we have to deal with on a daily basis.
Councilmember Obaji.
We went to the ICA, Independent Cities Association. We heard from Chief Kaufman, and I think his message to all cities where we share the weakness is that they keep hiring firefighters, but what we need is just EMSs to a certain extent also, because 90%+ of the calls are medically related and don't require a fire hose. So potentially to move towards integrating more EMS would be beneficial and help us efficiently meet the needs of the community.
And Councilmember MD.
I think it's the amount of time certain tasks take in the city. So for permits, for example, to get solar panels, we want to move to being a green city, yet to get a solar panel permit, it just takes forever around here. And it's not just to pick on one department, but it's also several on other departments as well, as the amount of time something takes for a resident to be able to complete and move forward with whatever they need to do and interact with. Another factor that I really think is a huge weakness is our senior program. We're not putting enough efforts into, speaking of changing dynamics, we're not putting enough efforts into the changing dynamics of what it means to be a senior. They're much more active. They need a lot more programs accordingly. And I think that is a place where we could also put in some efforts on that.
So any other areas of improvement that council members would like to flag? Well, let's move to the happier news about external opportunities. These would be things that are coming your way. They're not necessarily within your control exactly, but there are things that offer you the chance to take advantage of trends or other forces that are acting upon you. So let me start again with Councilmember MD. What would be an opportunity that you see?
Opportunity, homeless grants. There seems to be a lot of money out there for that kind of that. So the funding for homelessness and the funding for roads, those are the two big grant opportunities that I see to be able to fix our traffic and roads.
Councilmember Obaji.
I think this arbitrary and huge RENA number that we got from HCD presents an opportunity for a federal lawsuit, especially because the RENA statutes or the ACD statutes don't permit judicial review, which seems to me like a deprivation of due process. So RHNA is RHNA, that's all caps. That's residential housing needs assessment, and how they draw their numbers out of a hat relative to us compared to other cities. I think is pretty ridiculous. So I think there's an opportunity to potentially challenge the state scheme there.
Just if I say state scheme, is that captured?
Yeah, sure, I think that's a fair characterization.
Okay. Councilmember Hobart.
I think tagging on to what Councilwoman MD said, I think right now with the recent federal bill signed into law and as well as some in the past year, we have opportunities to leverage a changing perspective on what type of infrastructure is going to be eligible for outside funding, and use that to our benefit here for many of the programs that we not only need, but that maybe we also want in order to improve our local area.
Thank you. Councilmember Lowenstein.
Yeah, I would say evolution in technology that allows us to do more with less, as well as to connect better with our residents. And also doing more with less. Thank you.
And Mayor Pro Tem Marinheim.
I think the one simple word is partnerships, both with the state, with county, and with private sector. So we have a phenomenal amount of private sector businesses and people that are wanting to get involved in the city. And then, of course, with the state opportunities with grants, and then the county with programming and services.
Other opportunities that folks want to mention?
Yeah, I would say our strategic location, geographic location. We're in the middle of one of the largest ports in the world, and on the other side, Silicon Beach, which is one of the biggest producers of content technology in the country, and we're right in the middle of both of them. We happen to be lucky about that, so that creates lots of job opportunities and economic opportunities for our residents.
Other thoughts on opportunities?
We're good up here.
Okay. Well, on to the last quadrant, which is threats. These are external things that are coming at you that are not happy making, but are threatening to the city. Let me start again with Mayor Pro Tem Narenheim.
So an external threat is from the public as they interact with the city. They expose some of our weaknesses, and things that we see. I mean, the public are number one interactors with staff, right? So they're easily able, and if it's the first time or it's 100th time that they've talked to the city, they're able to see something that is happening, and whether they're correct or not in the problem, it's something that comes to us and is front and center that we need to deal with.
It's very vague. I don't understand what that means.
So like if you have in a building department, for instance, I have gotten a lot of issues with the permit system. So as we move forward with a new permitting system, they say, hey, I've done this way before. This is my first time showing up here. Where's the permit that's been working on, right? Whereas before you've had old employees who've known the system, but now you have new employees who don't know the system, right? And it goes throughout the entire department or city. So as we get new city staff, they don't know the old way of doing things. right? So you get the change in paradigm, shift in paradigm. So they're exposing things that are, that we've known about or have been dealing with for years. Public records requests is a perfect example. All our commissioners have an email address, but we're not using that right now. We're getting a lot of public records requests. It's costing us a lot of money. So those are the types of threats that we're seeing from the public as they come in, exposing us to issues.
So, forgive me, but wouldn't it be better to say then, it's not that the public's the threat, it's that what you're saying is that we need to find a way to communicate and be more efficient with the public? Because
that's the answer.
Okay.
Right? So the threat is the public coming in, expecting something to have happen a certain way. They could be completely correct or completely wrong.
So maybe it's the public's the threat is the
expectations.
expectations are higher than what we deliver.
Yeah. That's probably a good way to put it.
All right.
Thank you for the clarification. Councilmember Lowenstein, another threat that you might see.
Yes, outside big money interest influencing city politics and city policies.
Okay, Councilmember Horvath.
Well, I would say we have a continued threat coming from the state through legislation. And to some degree, probably with changes and whatnot at the federal level or instability, there is always, it's always ripe for creating issue here at the local level. And then just I would say a continued threat of litigation.
Is that a separate threat?
Yeah, that would be separate.
Councilmember Obadri?
I think the potential expansion of crime from LA City, Manhattan Beach, Beverly Hills, if they ever find their way to Redondo Beach, is a real threat. It's insane out there.
And Councilmember MD?
There's two. The first one being climate change. How we address it, whether it's sea level rise, whether it's the fact that we need to figure out how to put more charging stations on there. Pretty soon there won't be gas-powered cars won't be allowed to be sold in California, so we're going to need to figure out how to make that infrastructure happen. How are we going to charge all those cars when we have a city that's filled with apartment buildings and condos, and people are going to be looking for more opportunities to how to charge it. So I think climate change and all the different factors that go with it.
Drought and water restrictions, right?
Exactly, everything else. Well, that goes under climate change.
Climate change, yeah.
The number 7 actually goes under climate change, drought, water.
Yeah. I'm putting it there.
And then the other thing is that's been alluded to in a couple of comments is the instability of leadership, or that the public's expectations. I've been thinking about this in the federal level, our level. Why do different political parties or different just political beings, for example, feel that they have to sound the alarm all the time? Because when I'm hearing these threats and weaknesses, we just finished saying how great our staff is. And so there's a lot of that is communication, but there's also a need to why do people have to sound the alarm every election? And it's because only 20% of the people vote, 20 or 25% of the people vote. So therefore you need to have, in order to get people to the polls, you need to have something urgent to get them there. And if 90% of the people voted, the conversation wouldn't be about alarms or the threats of life, quality of life. It would be about the issues. And so the threat is the threat is really political discourse through alarm And it's all down to low voter turnout, in my opinion. It's how do we calm
Apathy.
how do we calm the rhetoric? And the more I think about it, it's about how do we address voter apathy? Exactly. That's another way to say it. That's good.
Thank you. Other threats that council members would like to mention?
Yeah, I was going to add to number 3 as part of the reason why the public, when they come in and they have an expectation to get something done and we can't get it done, is not just the state and federal policy, but also judicial rulings that happen. And those are just as important as the state and federal policies that come down the way. So yeah.
Yeah, specifically to the homeless. Why
exactly
can't
what I
we?
mean.
Exactly. That's what you're thinking. I agree.
Well, yeah. From number 1, I was, how they come down here and they act like we have something to do with Project Home Key in terms of ability to get something done or not stop it, but we just can't get anything done because it's a state program.
Well, and it's part of the solution. That's overall that because they don't want. Yeah, I agree.
Well,
We agree. You don't have to discuss it. Yeah, but we agree.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I would say state tax structure leads to, or economic uncertainty and state tax structure leads to potential revenue cuts. So the state of California is very dependent on sales tax and property tax. And in economic downturns, cities really, when boom times, cities do well, and downturns, cities do very poorly, more than many other places in the country. So that's always a threat. Whenever there's a recession, we know that we have to tighten our belts substantially. And so, yeah, I think that's always a threat that's out there, and it's an external threat.
All right, thank you, council members. Anything else before we conclude the SWOT analysis? Okay, well, thank you. And I thought that was a good conversation, a sobering conversation at times, but exactly the kind of conversation that needs to happen when we engage in strategic planning. So I want to go on next to revisit the city's 3-year strategic goal structure. So I'm going to share on my screen the template that we have for the strategic plan update, just so we can look at and share what the goal structure is currently. And again, remembering that these goals are not in any particular order of priority, but the goal structure we've been working with is, first of all, goal 1, to modernize the city's communication systems. Second goal is to vitalize core commercial areas of the city. 3, to increase environmental sustainability. 4, to invest in the city's infrastructure. 5, to maintain a high level of public safety. And 6, to enhance the delivery of city services. So those 6 goals formed the framework for the strategic plan in our previous iteration of it. I want to just, before we move on, ask council members and Mayor Pro Tem Narenheim, does that structure of those 6 goals still work for you? Do you see any reason to change this set of 6 goals as we move forward in the next cycle of strategic planning?
I think that that works. I think we should stay on that. I think tonight we want to start with certain departments.
Yeah, I think first tonight, you want to make sure that you all collectively reaffirm these 6 goals. Don't want to do any wordsmithing. I mean, you just set them 7 months ago, so I would imagine you're still generally pretty happy with them. But now is the time that we would tweak them if you want to make tweaks or add a little phrases to them to expand them. So we'll go through that after you affirm the goals, then we'll start on actually working the objectives underneath the goals. And yes, to your point, if you retain goals 2 and 3, we would like to start there because we are going to lose Brandy on Thursday, and those two goals affect her department more than most.
So I think, Eric, if we can just go through, maybe start off on number 1 and see, get agreement, need to have any changes and go from there.
With regard to the goals themselves?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, let me just ask the council members with regard to goal 1, which is modernize the city's communication systems. Do any council members see a need to change or tweak that goal?
No.
I don't see anything. No one. Okay.
I'll rely on you, Mayor Pro Tem Narenheim, to read the room as we go through this.
Yeah.
Goal 2 is vitalize the core commercial areas of the city. Any reason to
Good
change?
with that?
Yeah.
Councilor Horvath? Yeah.
Goal 3 is increase environmental sustainability.
You guys good with that?
Yep.
All right. Next up.
Goal 4, invest in the city's infrastructure.
You guys good with that?
Yes.
Yep.
All right. Next up.
Goal 5, maintain a high level of public safety.
We
Yeah,
can't
good with
argue
that?
with that.
Hard to argue with that, right?
Yep.
Goal 6, enhance the delivery of city services.
Works for me. Anyone else? All right.
Easy enough.
All right, cool. So before we move on, I think, Mike, correct me if I'm wrong, we wanted to call for public comment at this point on the titling and phrasing of these 3-year goals, just to make sure we give the public a chance to speak at this point. in the process.
Correct.
Is there anyone in the public that wants to come down and speak in person or via Zoom, or any new e-comments that have shown up? So in person, anyone here that wants to come down and speak? No? Okay. Oh, yes, we have one taker.
Hi. Gail Hazeltine, District 1. When it's listed 1 through 6, we're going to, number 3, environmental, you're going to go 1, 2, 3, and make that very specific when we discuss them?
Yeah, we'll have the individual goals within that. We'll discuss as a group, and if you have something to throw in there now, let us know now.
Well, I think we'll probably get comments later, so I'll wait and see what you guys put in there. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Anyone else in person? All right, Zoom?
Actually, he put his hand down again. Mr. Cadwalder, do you want to speak now? Please do raise your hand if I'll. No, actually, I have 3 people online. If you'd like to speak now, please raise your hand. Nope, not at this time.
Do we have any e-comments?
Do not.
Okay. All right,
All
there
right.
goes that.
Excellent. Well, so now I am going to share my screen again, and we're going to get through, start with goal 2, because again, Brandy Forbes is here tonight, and we want to make sure those areas of the plan that most touch her department come up first. So I think we'll start with goal 2 and then move on to goal 3. Goal 2 is vitalize core commercial areas of the city. Goal 3 is increase environmental sustainability. So as we did before in January, I'm going to call on council members to offer their ideas for specific initiatives or objectives under this goal 2 of vitalizing core commercial areas of the city. The important thing is that it be specific and that we understand, what the actual sort of end result would be. And we'll then fill in who and perhaps if we can, when. We'll leave the status of it and the comments of it about it till later in the process. So council members, who would like to start with an objective with regard to this particular goal?
I'll go first.
Okay, all right, Councilmember Obaji.
All right, after we get the environmental assessment of moving the FAR on Artesia Boulevard to 0.6, I'd like to continue with an environmental assessment to move the FAR to 1.5 on Artesia, or in the ACAP area. That's AACAP, all caps.
Well, I have FAR first to conquer, so FAR is.
FAR, all caps.
FAR, right.
Yes.
From 0.5 0.6 is what I heard you say.
Well, point 6 is what's coming up. It's in process right now, if I'm correct.
Yeah, I think what we would say here is study, and the word continues fine, but it would be continue with the environmental assessment to increase the FAR and specifically study the impacts of increasing it to 1.5. We already have a separate initiative, Eric, you might recall, to explore moving the FAR from 0.5 to 0.6. That's coming back in October. And this would be, I think, a follow-up initiative to that, if I'm hearing that correctly.
To 1.5?
Yes.
So again, please feel free to jump in if I'm not capturing it correctly, council member.
Yep, thank you. That's it.
All right.
And like with all of these things, just to know, we want to capture the general sentiments tonight. We'll wordsmith them before we bring back the final plan for adoption on September. It'll probably be at the September 20th meeting when we'll adopt.
Okay, Councilmember Horvath.
Yeah, Eric,
Well, can we, is there a who we need to capture here, Mike?
This is CD and WED. Community Development Director and Waterfront and Economic Development Director would work collaboratively on that one.
Okay. All right.
And just one point of order, I think, in general, is there are, as I see it, before we lose sight, we should hear from everybody, but I want to make sure everybody knows there are, I think, three items that have natural carryover into this goal that we're working. 2 of the 5 are actually going to be accomplished, I think, before we adopt the new plan, so we may not incorporate them. Right. But 3 of the 5, I think, will linger into the new plan setting process or the new objective period. So we should, before we end this goal, we should capture those, in my view.
Yeah, okay. I agree. All right, Councilmember Horvath.
Yeah, so Eric, what I was going to say is kind of what Mike just alluded to, which is I think what we have right now on the existing strategic plan, some of these items either need to be completed or go into a phase 2, right? They need to be modified. So whereas we have like finalized cannabis ordinance, which is in that process right now in the coming week or so, there's the next step for that, which is creating an RFP or
selection process,
and eventually having developers agreements and whatnot. There's further things to do as it relates to the ACAP implementation or the Artesia parking. From the broadband perspective, we did have staff brought back a presentation, but now from a phase 2 perspective, especially with more and more federal monies and programs, there's the possibility to continue looking for opportunities to use here within the city. EV charging expansion, staff has presented on that, and we've added I think 5 or 6 chargers throughout the city, but there's the possibility of moving forward with more of that. So I just think, what we've started here in the past 7 months is it's a good foundation to kind of springboard off of and/or, move to the next level.
So I captured ACAP, broadband, cannabis, EV charging stations, all relating to existing initiatives, council member. Is that?
Yeah, and that's not to say that the ones I didn't mention also don't have that possibility. I'm just saying that, these are in some ways multi-year efforts. And so I wouldn't want to see them just disappear off the strategic plan because we don't need to reinvent the wheel every 7 months.
Yeah, I mean, the key here is for us to identify what's that logical next objective that can be measured in the next 6-month period. And I think it's worth having each of those conversations. And if we can do that after we hear the kind of new ones, and we can go through each of the carryovers and try to figure out with some specificity what that would look like, or we can get into that right now if there aren't any other specific areas that we want to focus on under this goal.
Yeah.
So again, do we want to try, Mike, also to get when and who here?
Yeah, I think we will. As we get, each of those is its own objective, I think, Eric, as we move through. So let's maybe hear from Councilman Lowenstein, who wants to speak first, and then go from
Hold on,
there.
real quick,
Yeah.
what department is the who under for that item?
Well,
Or just
we got to break that into like 5
multiple items.
objectives.
Okay,
Yeah,
got
there's
it.
a lot there.
Okay, Councilman Lorenzen.
Okay, so along those lines, the harbor amenities plan implementation is going to take many years, or several years. So what are the interim steps? I assume it's selection of, I don't want to say vendors, but either consultants and architects, design, et cetera.
Absolutely.
So
And I'm
I
trying
would
to think if we
say,
have
you know, in
that.
the next 6 months, that would be waterfront economic development, public works, everybody's involved in that, it seems like.
Yeah, and I'm trying to figure out where we have that specific item now, the King Harbor Amenities Plan. We may not have it on here.
It's not even, it's the closest you have is number 7, which is the
Yeah,
National
so
Boardwalk.
we have to decide, do we want to call that vitalize core commercial areas, or do we want to maybe do that under invest in public infrastructure? Because most of what will come next with after the amenities plan is hopefully adopted by the council in October. That's our current timeframe.
Yeah.
It'll go to Harbor Commission September 12th, as Greg mentioned, 1, maybe 2 meetings, and then it should be to you in October. The logical next step in that is going to be implementing individual capital projects for each of the various amenities. And to your point, that will start with design, in some cases pre-design, then final design, and then bidding and construction. So Seaside Lagoon's a little bit farther along. We're already into final design, so we're soliciting contracts there. But yeah, if we want to identify each of those objectives, we can.
Right.
I'm just wondering if we want to do that here or under invest in city infrastructure.
I think it's actually both.
It
but
really is kind of.
It's kind of both, because the National Boardwalk is part of the
This.
amenities plan to some
Yeah.
degree.
It all straddles.
Yeah, it's, as Christian said, it straddles both areas.
It really can go either way.
So
yeah.
I'm fine keeping it in 4, but I don't see too much of it in 4 already. There's some, but sea
the
level
lagoon's
rise, sea
there.
level rise is part of it as well.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But
going to
it
add
is a
Seaside
core
Lagoon
commercial
to this?
area too for us, right?
I'm sorry, say that again.
It's a core commercial area. We have
It
a
is.
lot of
I mean,
properties down there.
Yeah, the reason we're doing it is because we want to enhance, obviously, our waterfront through investment in public infrastructure. And what we've done with Goal 2 historically is we've thought about those initiatives that really, I think, speak specifically to kind of the business community, and in some cases, commercial property rather than public property. So,
But we have Pier Plaza, we have a number of the restaurants and bars down there.
we do, and that's, I think, why logically the storefront improvement program, which we're going to be bringing to you next month, is here, right? Because we're specifically speaking to how we can interact with that business community and enhance their storefront. So
Let's put it in 4. That's fine.
Yeah, I think maybe it feels more, the next steps of the plan feel more capital oriented to me, just the way I think the work we're going to have to do there.
Okay. And also the infrastructure bond could be part of that as well too.
Right, absolutely.
Okay.
It is a lot of fun. A lot of it's just funding attraction.
Right.
Okay.
Okay, who's up next?
Councilman Rudy.
Okay, so kind of alluding what they're saying. So for example, number 9 in there is EV charger expansions, and it shows complete. Item was presented, and that is definitely not a check mark. That is we need to continue that, just to kind of.
Well, there's new state funding that just came out.
I know, but in other words, it says it's in the done status, and I don't want it to fall off the strategic plan.
Well, and remember, we try to do
That's
these.
your point. I just wanted to be more specific.
Yeah, we accomplished the objective, right, by providing the report on what those funding opportunities look like. The next step now would be identify specific areas to implement additional charging. I think we have one area we're currently working on with, where's Luke, with Southern California Edison, I think, and Greg is working on this as well down on the waterfront.
I don't need to get into the specifics of it on each one of these, that we'll be here all night. I just want to kind of make that point that just because it says it's done here doesn't mean I want the next one to have it go away.
Absolutely. And I think that was, I think, Christian's point too, is there's some logical carryover. So what I think, and that's why unless there are completely new initiatives or objectives that we want to add to this goal, what I would say is maybe we go back to the goals that we have that would have logical next steps, and we can talk about those. And we don't have to get into the specifics now. We can just decide, do you want us to come back with the next logical objective associated with that goal? Because we can craft that for you. It's good to wordsmith a little bit of it now, so you're all in agreement that it is a priority. But, you know, that is one way to maybe tackle that, the rest of this goal.
Okay, and
list.
then the business concierge program, you're going to report on that on September 20th.
Yeah.
I mean, I know there's people here that have taken credit for that, but let's be honest, that was one of my first objectives when I got on council, and I just object to that timing.
Based on the availability of, yes, okay, well, some of these dates aren't hard and fast per se. That was a target for us. And
I'd like that to be reconsidered.
Okay.
On that one.
I'm sorry, just so I understand and capture it, council member, is it just the completion date?
Yeah, just the timing of I think the council member MD is mentioning that she may not be present, I think, on the 20th and would like to be here when that item is discussed, is maybe what I'm picking up here. So we can easily move that to the first meeting in October.
Okay, great. And then,
that's all it takes.
But there are certain things on here that I truly think are done, report on the mural ordinance options. I mean, available sites. I mean, we kind of talked that already. And there are certainly things on here that I don't think we need to be putting on here. So I don't know how much guidance you want on that. And
yeah, I mean, what I would suggest, I can, and I don't know, Eric, if you have it, we could pull up and share screen on the attachment and just quickly identify which of the existing goals we think have a natural next step, or we would carry over. I can tell you right now, items 1 and 2 on the plan, which really have to do with the ACAP implementation and then our parking analysis, we've got hearings scheduled in October. I think we should pick both of those up and bring them over to the next plan like for like. I don't think we should make any changes to them. We should just continue to track those. Broadband was mentioned. There is potentially a next step to broadband. I'm not sure there's a specific objective within the next 6 months. We'll have to think about that a little bit. There is always an eye towards broadband grant opportunities, but I don't know if we necessarily need to put in an objective to do that because we'll always track that. Cannabis ordinance, clearly the next objective here is going to be the permit selection process. We have to develop that and bring that back. We can craft that. I think that is an item that I think the council would like to see as an objective in the next plan.
So Mike, slow down on that one. So on the cannabis ordinance, what is the next step?
It's permit selection. Now, there are a lot of things that can happen between now and when we would actually start that process that could change what that looks like, but clearly the next step here, per our own ordinance, is to implement the request for permit applications and then move forward with recommendations on permittees.
Okay, so I'm comfortable based on this conversation that you've had that you understand that where we're going to want to pick that up and put that in there in the final document.
Yeah.
So I'm okay. So we don't have to go into each micromanage each one. And since we're just pointing at just one thing I do want to add to one of the goals that has to do with Brandy, since we're at 7:34, I want to make sure this gets covered, is actually goal number 6 that would be specific to Brandy's department, enhance the delivery of city services. And I know we were trying to capture it with move more city services online, but we really got to address how the flow chart, how that flow chart of getting a license works in this city, so that we don't have this delay or frustration that residents have. Like I said earlier, just getting a solar permit or to be able to do certain permits, on how to make that flow chart easier. I don't know if it's maybe a permit concierge person who can kind of walk people through and kind of be the guard for it, because for that when they come to the counter, because I understand what staff is pushing back and saying. They give a list to people. Let's say it's 10 items, and then the person comes back and says, "Okay, I'm done," but they've only done 6. And then you try to work with them on that, and then they push back and say, "You got to go finish this extra 4. Meanwhile, we'll work on this other." In the efforts of being nice to people, maybe that's what it is, and that it ends up being kind of more work for staff. I don't know what that answer is. Staff has to answer that, but we need to figure out how to make it more customer service oriented when they go to get a permit, and they don't have to wait months on end to get a permit to put in solar, which we want solar,
Okay.
right?
Yeah, no,
So-
I got you. Exactly what Public Works, Ted and his team did.
Stop signs, yeah.
So, Mr. Mazansky.
Yeah, that's the stop sign. I was thinking the exact same thing. I mean, we did the flow chart. We did the flow chart for our traffic calming process, right? And that's just a chart, but it's an analysis of what the steps are. Ideally, it becomes very self-evident to the community, it becomes easier and more customer friendly. I think a lot of what we have to do candidly is just going to be work on our general customer service focus, make sure we have the resources applying ourselves to that effort, and that our internal processes reflect something that is efficient and clear to the public. This transition from COVID from in-person public counter only to online only to appointment only to now public again has got our building community confused as all heck. So
I know we're short staffed, so I get, I'm not assigning any blame whatsoever, but I think if we want to identify what our focuses are, I think customer service in that department is huge.
And I couldn't agree more, and it's something we're identifying internally, but we'll have to, when we get to goal 6, I think, and we can talk about this with Brandy too.
Yeah,
What I'll tell you, we can do this Thursday as well, because this is something she and I and others in our
I only mentioned
team.
it because you said we weren't going to have Brandy on Thursday. That's the only reason why I mentioned
I get it. I want to finish up the vitalized core commercial services before we start moving on. I get what you're saying, and I have actually a solution for the other items. Was that it? Do you have anything else?
For number 2, no, I do not.
Okay.
Or for Brandy, no.
Okay. So identifying business districts throughout the city where the old number 2, we had on here business improvement districts, park improvement districts. We sent staff, the WED department, WED, to go out and start doing some walking and talking to business owners. So I don't know where we are with the status of that. I think that's the only place, maybe the International Boardwalk, we also identified as a district. So maybe.
What should be added onto that is paving and painting that area, because
So that's, okay, so that's more under item number 4, invest in city's infrastructure.
Well, so is storefront improvement program.
I know, and I've been thinking about the goal 3 and 4, goal 4 being invest in city infrastructure, and goal 2 is vitalize core commercial areas. While it's kind of very similar, they are 2 very distinctly different ones. We need to treat them that kind of differently.
So let's go back to the first one, the business improvement district. So we are working on the next step. We are doing some additional research. If this is a follow-up goal, I think within the next 6 months, I think we could probably provide a specific reporting on that. I'm just trying to think of we'll have to come up with timing and exactly who. It's going to be Waterfront Economic Development. It's going to be Greg and his team really doing this. But yeah.
But doing what? I'm a little unclear exactly
Item
what we're
6,
asking
item
for.
6,
Item
6, Eric, and under the current, under goal number 2, the current item has a follow-up item that I think we'll want to create there.
Old item 6, so page 13. So
But can we say what that follow-up item is?
Well, it's going to be, I think, a report back on specific, the results of the canvassing effectively in both the waterfront and Artesia for the implementation of a business district, a business improvement district. And the staff report, not to get into the details now, identified a goal of maybe a more targeted segment of Artesia that might be willing to participate. And then the same thing in the waterfront, it's almost the reverse. It might be that the waterfront businesses on a more aggregated basis want to do something specific and independent of our leasing requirements. So it's sort of two different objectives with kind of all under Greg, so similar but different. But I think we can come back with the results of that canvassing within the next 6 months.
So I'll keep it as 1 for now, but if you want to segregate it.
Yeah.
When we get to it, that's fine. What else, council members, with regard to goal 2?
I think I'm good. Oh, you have Councilmember Baji.
I don't know how exactly to phrase this, but I'd like to invite artistic submissions for the design of an archway over Artesia Boulevard, west of Inglewood. I think that would help with placemaking. It wouldn't take a lot of money. And, if we could even make it a competition among high school students or something like that with a little reward. But yeah, something that would help people envision what it would look like to decide, so we could decide whether it's something people would want or not.
Is this basically it, council member?
Sorry.
Archway on Artesia, invite?
Yes, thanks.
And I think there's a public art component there, Eric, I think.
Yeah. Absolutely, thanks.
This would be, who would this be, Mike?
That's going to be our community services, CS.
Other council members' ideas for this goal?
All right.
Wouldn't that be a budget modification? Because last time we talked about this, that sign was a $500,000. And so is that something?
We're not implementing anything. We're just talking about getting a program going.
All right.
We're not talking.
Which sign?
Your gateway.
Gateway.
Oh, yeah, no, this is not to build it. It's just to get some ideas,
Galleria.
So as we look at goal 2 and the ideas we have so far, we've got you can see what we have. It sounds like this one with regard to the amenities plan for King Harbor and Seaside Lagoon, we would move that to goal 4. Is that the consensus to move it over there?
Yeah, I think so. And we'll strip that out. There'll be more specific objectives that will be part of that.
I'll leave it here for now then, just for simplicity's sake. Have I captured all the carryover items, the EV charger expansion, business concierge program, ACAP, Artesia parking, broadband, the cannabis ordinance? I think we captured all of those carryover items.
Yeah, I think so.
So Mike, which next one do you want to do?
I think number 3 next, goal number 3, increase environmental sustainability. There tends to be community development activities in there.
Okay, so can I make a suggestion can we maybe go over all 10 of those items?
Sure.
A great quick high level, whether we agree it's been done or there's carryovers as a council, and then that way we can add something moving forward. That way we don't have to keep going back.
Sure.
So Eric, I don't know if you have that in front of you. The first one is
I do, right here.
Oh, perfect. Edison right away.
Well, the license is done.
So is there any carryover items? Do we need to
and
deal
it's coming back to you actually next month. What the next step is, just so you're aware, is a conceptual drawing. You might remember just about $500,000 you appropriated in the CIP for us to create that.
Instead of writing Edison right away license, how about we write, since we have that license, we have the design, plans, designs, and implementation?
Yeah, we can draft. I mean, the reality is I think you're actually going to evaluate the conceptual plan before we adopt these new goals. So I think this is going to end up being a tweener because this is coming to you 6th. It's coming to you next meeting.
So in that case, do we even want to include it? Implementation, that's going to be after the fact.
Yeah, it would be implementation, but that becomes more of a capital effort.
CIP project.
Yeah, it becomes a CIP project.
So it should drop off.
Yeah, I think you're gonna get the next logical step here next week.
Okay, so I think we can take that off.
Yeah.
If it's gonna be on a CIP project.
Okay, bicycle master plan?
I don't know if that's done.
Well,
totally built out, completed, finished.
Wow, didn't even notice it after
That's great.
I think you could wrap that in with the multimodal plan.
Yeah.
It's
And
just ongoing.
I agree with that.
And yeah, so let's combine 2 and 3, and also we're having a presentation, next week?
Yeah, so Ted, is that gonna be the 3rd Tuesday in September? It's on the 6th.
Yeah.
So you're gonna get that next week too.
So are there any follow-ups on this that we need to, or all the associated.
It's capital. I mean, all of this becomes
ACIP
capital.
projects,
And it's
right.
like what we talked about with living streets at our last
We
council
can
meeting.
take those two off.
I think you can. Yeah.
But can we put an objective here, like to actually get signage up within the next 6 months, directing people towards the, LTN pathway to the beach, if you will?
Well, that's an ongoing process with the COG, actually.
Right.
So
No, I know.
I don't know that we can do that in 6 months, but it is.
Okay.
I like what you're going for, though, in terms of actionable.
Like something visible that we can see that shows
Right,
progress.
we just had a signage, a whole, 2-hour meeting on signage for that, and so that's, Fair and Peers is working with the COG. I'm just not sure that they could execute and come up with final solutions in 6 months. So, but if we have it as an ongoing objective, right, I think it's in progress.
I mean, we need to have things in here that are
Let me have
measurable.
Ted speak to that too. I mean, I think to Christian's point, this is an ongoing thing. What our next actionable item, I think, is going to be design the wayfinding for that effort, right? Ted, is that something?
That's what Fair and Peers is working on.
Right, and ultimately would be to bring you back a report that you could see and look at that design. Is that something that we could produce and share within 6 months?
Correct, and I think, Councilman Obaji, you're asking for something that may be connected yet different, because I remember you're asking about the bike facilities and wayfinding for the bicyclists, right, to come down from North Redondo into the beach areas. The LTN network is predominantly going to be on the residential streets, not going to be on the collectors and arterials, where we may not actually have Class 2 bike facilities, and that may be a little bit different as far as directional materials. The LTN is going to be presented to you at the 6th meeting. You'll get to see where that network is going to. And if there's the opportunity to implement wayfinding into that, that will still need some design and that could be incorporated into it.
So
I'm not certain implementation would be in 6 months, but you can definitely get to see design and related work within the 12-month period.
Thank you for that. I did attend the COG board meeting last week, and so I got the summary of where the LTN is and where it's going, and I love where it's going. I'd like to see it implemented. I think at some point we're going to have a discussion as to whether our bike path and bicycle system is going to be separate and aside from the LTN, or if it's kind of better off merged with the LTN, because those streets essentially have been identified as the places where low-speed vehicles can safely travel, and they're not on the main thing. So
Right, there will be overlaps, and you will see that when that comes forward, absolutely.
okay, all right. Well, I suppose if we can make some progress on signage for any non-motor vehicle transportation in North Redondo to get to the beach, I would absolutely love that in the
How
next
about all of
6
Redondo?
months to 1 year.
How about all of Redondo?
Sure, all Redondo. This way to the Riviera, this way to Hermosa, this way to Manhattan Beach, this way to the beach.
I mean,
this way to the mall, the South Bay Social District.
Just to that point, just the other day, when I was working on the beach, somebody came up to me and asked, hey, where's Hermosa Beach? I was working in Redondo. And they said, oh, it's on the other side of the harbor. And they asked, and then they said, hey, I just want to go shopping, blah, blah, blah. We heard this great place to go. And I immediately thought, well, they parked on the Esplanade. There's no signage to get them to go to Riviera Village. And I said, why don't you go up that ramp right over there, right down the street, go up, go 1 block in, Riviera Village. So to that point, I know Riviera Village has always asked for more signage as well. So all in the same.
Now you got to talk to the county beaches and harbors to put some signs on their beach, telling them to go to the
I think the
shops, right?
overall point here is city signage, which we might not want to open up those can of worms. I know what you're thinking.
Well,
but it's a different type of, it's the same answer, but different type of signage.
It just depends on how, pardon the pun, pedestrian you want the signage to look, right? I mean, a wayfinding program typically has a design effort, and it's linked, and it's got colors and schemes and logos, and it's got a whole thing. And then there's a placement strategy as to where it can be most effective and most easily viewed by pedestrians and cars, et cetera. So that's a project, and it's one that's a good one, I think. If we want something truly attainable in the next 6 months, we probably want to target a specific area of town and be very very clear about exactly what you want us to maybe bring back in terms of formatting options and implementation.
So maybe if we're talking about signage generally, as well as wayfinding, that I don't know if there's a way we can put into our strategic plan, like this is actually not for this 6-month period, but it's for the next 6-month period after we get through, for example, our branding exercise. So we come up with what the branding is going to be for the city. Now we can make signage both for vehicles and for, business-oriented signage that's consistent with our branding.
Absolutely. We could do a future objective.
Yeah, sure.
And we do have a branding item that's going to carry over. We haven't completed the branding item yet. So we could identify a future goal there or future objective.
That could work together with revamp of our website.
Absolutely. Ideally, all of these graphics are synergized, right? And that's our goal. That's why, we can go out and put a bunch of signs up. They'd be red lettering and white background and say, put a thumb up and say this way to the pier. I don't think we're all going to like that, right? So it has to be a little more.
I think it has to be more than just city signage, because I can tell you that finding a business on the International Boardwalk on Google Maps is nearly impossible.
And wayfinding in the waterfronts is an issue too, no question. It absolutely
is. So it's not just physical, it's also virtual or internet.
So the signage conversation, we're not going to be putting on this goal for the next 6 months, but we'll have to rely on Councilmember Baji to bring that back for next.
A lot of pressure.
Yeah.
Okay.
We can footnote it too in the plan, so.
Yeah, maybe just footnote it in the plan.
I think where's the.
I just ask a quick point, related to the multimodal plan. Okay, there you go. To effectuate like these things here, right? We don't have a traffic engineer, and I'm just wondering, do we have as part of the objective are we just going to farm out to third-party consultants, or are we trying to get some? I know you said at the last meeting, I think you went through a round and just with some interest,
we're struggling a little bit to recruit.
It's hard for Ted's team to do anything if he doesn't have the people in place. So that's got to be part of the overall objective here, I guess.
It is. I mean, that's kind of the administrative stuff that we have to do. We are likely to come back with you with a change to that particular position's job specification and likely its classification. We need to incentivize better applicants. It's just too important position. It's just the community demands too much in that area for us. So you're going to see something from us, I think, human resources item here in the next couple of weeks to try to help us draw a better candidate pool, but we are struggling there.
So council members, in the interest of time, can we keep looking at the objectives from last plan and just see which ones are carryovers here?
Yeah, tree ordinance. Didn't we have a item that was going to come back this summer?
Yeah, we did the initial item. Direction was given, I think, for ordinance preparation. I'm not sure where we're at with the next follow-up.
And I just got a text from Jillian Martins, who's working on that. So she said she's working on it right now. I don't know when it will come back to the council, but.
So fall, we'll get more information. We can say fall.
Yeah, probably by the end of the year.
This seems like a natural follow-up that we can come up with the objective here. Presentation of draft ordinance, sometime in the 6-month window.
I'd say water quality would be continuing.
Yeah, we have a number of EWIMP items. We went through that enhanced watershed management program with you all. There are a number of implementation measures. Much of that is capital. So I don't know if we need it specific to the strategic plan unless you want a periodic status report or something as a natural follow-up. But this is mostly now a capital item.
Okay.
I think we can take that off.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. Next up.
Bike racks?
Yeah, bike racks, that item's coming back to you on the 6th, right, Brandy? I think it's going to be, we're going to be talking about kind of what we can do, and then ultimately you would be pulling that into the code if we want to make it a mandate or guidelines. We're going to have to, that's the conversation we'll have on the 6th. So there could very well be a follow-up item here. I don't know if it's likely a follow-up item in the next 6-month window or this one, we'll see. But
I will say on the subject that every city, when we met at ICA, for example, says that every time they put down a new bike rack, or Hermosa Beach especially, it gets filled right away. So bike racks, just like EV chargers, it's what we got to do, and we can't possibly build too many.
Yeah, and this was really specific to commercial properties, right? What we were obligating, what we were either going to strongly recommend or obligate commercial properties to build as part of their projects.
You know, and well, we'll talk about it when it comes back, but number of bike racks, they can then waive number of parking spaces accordingly. I mean, I'd have no problem with that.
A maximum percentage. There's a formula that they use.
So the point is that if they can't, you know, you can put in 10 bikes for one parking spot kind of a thing. It's possible. So I would definitely ease up on their parking requirement if they put in bike racks.
Well, and that's specifically what we're studying with the Artesia parking analysis, right? As you know, you gave us that very direction. So that of course would be specific to the Artesia corridor, bike racks in general. If you want to have that conversation on the 6th, we certainly can have it. So.
Okay.
Is there a follow-up item here to capture?
I think it's going to be a tweener, Eric. I mean, we're going to have this one done before this new plan's adopted, I think, or at least advanced.
All right. Next
Tree
up.
plantings?
So we just included $150,000 more in the last budget?
Yeah, we just put 173 in, and we got another 200 plus planned for this fiscal year. So
so we don't need any.
I think we're rolling on this. I mean, we believe in this. You all have made it clear that this is a major policy item.
Is there any conflict between our tree initiative and the water shortage right now? Are these trees consuming a lot of water, or is it, you know, just reaching?
No, I think most of the trees we're planting in the parkway are trees you need to establish in their first year, but then after that, we're hoping will be sustained without a lot of water.
That's a long-term project.
That's a longer-term issue, yeah.
Could be, but it varies, right?
Yeah, initially, they are water consumers, but after they're established, the hope is that they are not major consumers.
And don't plant between September 9th and September 20th of this year. Because 6th to the 20th?
Yeah, we can't turn the water on for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Outside.
By the way, I don't think we announced that.
No, we didn't.
We should announce that. I just found out today about it from West Basin.
Yeah. They've been, I mean, I've read about it more in the papers than I've received direct notifications. So what I'm unclear though is if it applies to parks. I'm not sure municipalities are affected. That's the one thing. We've got to look into that. I'm not sure park and recreational facilities are actually affected by this close. I think it's residential outdoor watering. So we'll try to get you more information as part of next week's meeting.
Okay, thank you.
Because people are going to be mad if they see park being watered in there.
Well, and what are we going to do? If we don't water parks for 2 weeks, we're going to have dead parks. I mean, it's a problem.
Water at night. 2 o'clock in the morning.
Should we move on to plastic waste?
Yeah.
Okay, includes residential, commercial, industrial, and institutional outdoor irrigation.
We're not institutional.
Plastic waste.
Yeah. All right, so next one.
Didn't we got a report back from the police, and we asked for an ordinance prohibiting even reusable plastic bags. So we're awaiting a prohibition on reusable plastic bags, right?
Well, we went to the city attorney's office for review in Manhattan Beach on their ordinance and update. It's the enforcement action.
Yeah, remember we talked about, we had direction on this. We are planning to roll out we're going to bring Abbott in, our engineer that does our MPDS inspection work. We're going to have this be part and parcel to what they do with their annual inspections of businesses. And then we'll do targeted enforcement through our quality of life team. I think that's kind of where we left it. If you want to report on this statistically, we can do that. I'm not sure.
I think we have we're supposed to have an ordinance coming back relative
we are.
to.
Well,
okay.
Not a direct ordinance, but
a copy of Manhattan Beaches, and he was going to find out whether they're enforcing it or not. But ultimately, if we adopted Manhattan Beaches ordinance here, Target would stop using those thick plastic bags. Sprouts would stop using those thick plastic bags, and they'd use paper bags instead.
So a potential tweak to the ordinance that we currently have, it would be an enhancement of the bag type. Yeah. Okay. We can follow up on the timing of that. That might be something that we could do within the next 6 months. Seems like we could.
Will this be a draft change to a current ordinance?
Yeah, it'd be a discussion about ordinance modifications associated with plastic waste.
Okay. And how about white sea bass program?
It's ongoing.
So that's done, didn't the Harbor Commission already have that? Yeah, in July. Are they coming back to us?
They're talking about it again, I think, next month,
27.
correct? So they're having is that a special meeting that's coming back on the 27th? Yeah. So the Harbor Commission has a special meeting on the 27th of September, and it's coming back to you on October 11th. So this would just be probably a pickup and carryover item, Eric.
Okay.
So the whole thing.
Yeah.
Order, it's 8 o'clock.
Yeah, we know. We're one away from being done. They have somewhere to go?
Princeton's
Hot
home.
days?
Princeton's home. I would just like to see her.
Okay. Environmental Advisory Board, item number 10. So.
Yeah, we've got to bring that back to you still. We should carry this one over.
And I know the Public Works had a letter that they were raising their hand to volunteer. That was cool. And also they had another comment in there as well regarding, what was it? Existing commission's creation of a new committee. They wanted to do it and they wanted, there's something else. What? Accident history, but yeah, that was on environmental. Yeah. So just that they volunteered to be a part of that.
Yeah, and we'll certainly incorporate their interest in our conversation to you in either latter part of September. I think our target right now is September 20th, but we should pick this up and carry it over because there will likely be some follow-up action to that as well.
Is it just the whole thing we pick up, Mike?
Yeah, I think so for now, Eric. I mean, depending on how it shakes out, we might do something else with it.
Okay. So are there new initiatives that council members want to consider under this category of goal 3?
Hold on, let's, Ms. Forbes, do you have something to add?
While I'm here.
Yeah.
I just wanted to step back to goal 2, and we have the general plan update to move that into environmental review. I just don't want to lose the things that are big ticket items that we are working on.
No, we're going to just scrap that. 5 years, just call it quits.
So say again, complete general plan review. What was the rest of it?
General plan update and move into environmental review.
Thank you.
And is that an action item? Is there going to be a report back to council for them to direct the review or
Yeah,
the scope of the review?
Exactly.
Okay, so we'll write that up.
Yeah.
But just to be clear, there isn't an actionable, there is an objective, there's specific measurable objective. Okay.
And then I know we have a couple of things that'll be in other goals, like the choose and implement new permitting software. We have the building code adoption. I don't know if that needs to go under.
I think we're going to that's going to end up being enhance the delivery of city services, I think. So you and I can connect tomorrow and we can bring those forward on Thursday.
I do have 3 items, and I did not see a goal that they would go under. So one was the complete the objective residential design standards for city council adoption, adopting the inclusionary housing ordinance.
Well, hold on. Do you want to put this into Eric in one of the buckets? So what was that first one you just said?
The complete the objective residential design standards.
So that'd probably be the last one, number 6, I think.
Yeah, I think that would help with delivery of city services.
Yeah.
Complete residential design.
Guidelines. Standards.
Okay.
Adopt the inclusionary housing ordinance. And finalize the encroachments ordinance for air conditioners.
Inclusionary housing, I suppose you could argue, is an environmental sustainability measure. I mean, as much as any of them.
I don't know. Yeah.
I'll let you guys debate that.
No.
Yeah.
So we've got
Not sure where
the
that
3
one
that-
goes.
Brandy,
were
those
my
are the 3.
items.
Maybe city services providing housing at an affordable.
No.
It's
I mean,
really
it's
hard
not
to, that's a hard one to.
Yeah.
It's a hard one to fit.
But thank you. I just wanted to make sure that we documented those.
Perfect. Thank
So
you.
council members, before we adjourn, was there anything else you had as a new item under goal 3?
I can't think of one.
Yes.
Councilmember Baji.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. I would like to see the some natives get planted into the North Redondo Beach bike path area, which we had budgeted for, not this last budget, the other budget, but I don't think we've seen any natives get planted. Remember, we were going to get from SCE a map showing the areas where we could plant some species and a list of species that we could plant.
Yeah, so I think that's the goal there. I think that's the objective. Provide a report on SCE regulations associated with native, I don't know what we would call it, plant, because it's not really trees. It's just landscaping, native landscaping in the North Redondo Beach bike path right of way.
Location and type.
Yeah.
What about grass removal?
Turf to other forms of landscaping. Yeah, that's something that we.
It's not a CIP yet.
It's a grant.
It's funded.
It's funded. We do have some money. You did approve some, I think, starter money there.
150,000, I think, or something like that.
Yeah, and it's really, what I would say is a report back on the turf to xerophytic planting options. And I think we are pursuing 2 grants, I think, with Met and West Basin. Yeah, we're trying to stack the grants. The obvious choice, low-hanging fruit, is the grass area behind the main library.
Yeah.
And then other areas of City Hall. So yeah, we can get you a report on that.
Turf to zero, what was the phrasing?
Yes, water-wise landscaping, whatever you want to call it.
Okay. In a particular area or the whole city?
And target locations.
City Hall.
Okay.
All right, Councilmember Baji.
Future goal, again, I think it fits into here, but future goal of signage for other transportation, alternative transportation.
This is environmental sustainability.
Right, yeah, if you're riding a bike, you're not polluting into the environment. And if you got signage, then
Why
you're
don't
more
we
likely
put
to
that
ride a
in the
bike.
signage category you're going to bring up in 6 months?
Yes, right,
There
exactly.
you go.
Same one up here.
Yeah, I can go here, because the outcome is to improve environmental sustainability, but we've plugged the branding initiative and modernized the city's communication systems, which is really, I think, also a wayfinding effort. It makes sense to have it there too.
Well, so is it the same one as number 1 here, though?
Yeah, it is. It's the extension of the city branding effort into the wayfinding program associated with alternative forms of transportation.
And can I piggyback on his, about the bike path, having the native plants? We'd also funded the trees along the bike path north of Artesia Boulevard. Do we need to add that to the strategic plan, or it's already being done?
Well, I think it does fall into that report back on Edison regulations and what we can actually plant in that zone.
Okay, I thought we
looking
already
at
knew
it.
what trees, but okay, I'd like
I mean,
to
we
add,
have-
I'd
I
like to
think-
add the
do we
trees that
know?
were funded last budget cycle.
Yeah, I think there's areas where we can, I think we have to figure out exactly where we can plant them.
It was along the bike path. It was already specifically in one of the options of our budget last year. I'll send you back the email.
Yeah.
Councilmember, are you asking for
hope we
a
know.
specific?
Add on to Councilman Obaji's talk about the native plants in the bike path, but we also had in the budget item trees along the bike path. And so let's just add that to that. While you're doing native plants, let's add the trees that were budgeted, already budgeted, along the bike path.
Yeah, the areas I think that we knew we could plant are maybe part of the regular effort. So this would be more in that bike path zone. That might be something that's a little more controversial for Edison, depending on the location. So it would fit here. It would fit here.
You done? Is there a need to have an objective for harbor water quality?
Our water quality is pretty good, actually. I don't think so.
Okay.
I don't think so. Our EWIMP is eventually going to get us there, I think, anyway, from a monitoring standpoint.
Okay.
How about eliminate that power plant?
That's
6 months?
6 months,
That's a 6
probably.
month goal. Wait, that was right after we're done with the full implementation of the bike pass.
Yeah.
Signage, don't get signage.
Fine. All right. You guys have anything else? No. All right, Mr. Rosansky?
Yeah, just Eric, that last one, the tree planting. So Ted, I need you to weigh in on this. Is that something we're implementing or is that something we're exploring along the bike path? Because I think maybe the budgeted items we're already planting. I think that is already.
But I think it also falls under the number 6 because we do have to work with Edison to make sure that we're out of their drip lines and any restrictions that they may
Numbers,
have.
the 6th objective, not the 6th goal, Eric.
The
So
sixth objective,
I think
I'm
it was better to combine the two of them.
Correct.
As Councilwoman MD mentioned.
You don't have to combine them. You can leave them separate. I'm okay with that. So it's just that, no,
but-
I'm okay with that.
But I
it's
don't know
just
if we
the-
can, I'm not sure we can commit to that. I don't know what
No,
that
no,
means.
This was already, no, we've already approved it. We've already funded it. It's already in there. It hasn't been implemented.
so it's a
All I want to
CIP.
know,
So
all
what-
I want to know, it was too small to be a CIP and it was in there. So all I'm saying is that what I get told a lot is it's not in our strategic plan. So if I want to get it done in 6 months, I want to add this on here.
Okay, as long as you know what that is. Do you know what that is?
Get that clarification on Thursday because I'm
I will
not
have it
certain I
before
could have.
Thursday for you.
I'll
No problem.
just want to make sure that commitment, I got to make sure Edison is good with it wherever we say we're going to plant them.
It was, okay, we'll argue about it offline. I will win that argument, by the way.
I look forward to it.
Are there any other ideas that we want to incorporate into goal 3? All right, well, hearing none, I think perhaps this is the hour in which we say we've concluded this night's session of strategic planning. I believe that there's, the next steps will be for me to come down to the city of Redondo Beach on Thursday, and we'll continue this on Thursday evening. I guess we want to invite public comment at this point, Mike?
Well, yeah, I think we can, or we can carry it to next Thursday when we'll be talking about it more.
If there's we'll do in person and then we'll do Zoom as final. So anyway, in person.
So do we just continue this or do we adjourn?
No,
Public comment.
it's
No, I mean after.
we can adjourn as normal because we're going to
Okay.
We have
Special
another
meeting.
separately scheduled meeting on Thursday.
Okay.
So. By the way, which is at 5, we're here at 5:30 for a housing matter before the 6 o'clock.
You're welcome. Yes.
Thank you. Good evening. Sheila Lamb, District 4. First, I want to thank Mike Wazenski and all of you for really pushing through all of these projects so quickly. And I have some suggestions for some additions to the strategic plan. For the tree ordinance, please add a tree permit program to allow residents to plant approved trees in the parkway. Make it part of an online permit process that will be available through the new website. This addition to the tree ordinance will save the city time and money. I support the Public Works Commission's recommendations regarding a review of accident data and creating or adding an environmental advisory body. I would suggest some thinking about the Redondo Beach response to heat waves and drought. Although we have a beach where many residents go during a heat wave, many cannot. So perhaps the harbor amenities plan could be thought about in terms of facilities for children and water, availability of water for children during these heat waves and older adults as well. I suggest also the creation of a public information officer to coordinate information flow internally and externally through the website and other communication channels. This person would work closely with the city manager and council members to ensure timely information is communicated with the residents. Case in point, the new motel conversion in District 1, which caused quite a bit of concern among our residents. Number 4 would be to continue to move forward with a harbor amenities plan, and I understand that you put together some new objectives for that. Set a date for the selection of a vendor for the website content management system and move forward with the new website plan. Finally, Redondo Beach has a multitude of civic-minded residents. Every council member here can tell you a story of a resident who loves the city and acts on or expresses an interest to improve the city. In line with this spirit of resident commitment to Redondo Beach, I ask you to consider starting a new campaign to bring residents together. You can call it the I Heart Redondo Beach campaign. This citywide campaign may include t-shirts that residents could purchase at cost, hats, bags, etc. And students could be involved through writing an essay telling why they love Redondo Beach. Citywide campaigns build community solidarity that helps residents see themselves as connected with everyone else, that we all love Redondo Beach. Please consider this citywide campaign. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anyone else in person?
Gail Hazeltine, District 1, and I'm also a planning commissioner. And when the city manager came in front of us and asked us for goals, one of the specific things that I mentioned was that we need an educational program that goes out. It could even just be a brochure to the residents that states environmentally what's a good thing to plant in their parkway. And in my neighborhood, a lot of artificial turf's going in. And when I talk to the people, they think they're doing the right thing. And they don't understand that they're actually contributing to global warming. So if we sent out just an educational pamphlet that just said, you know, put in anything else other than, you know, natives, put in and trees. And we also, I know, have a parkway tree plan going. So I would like to see that. The other thing, it appears that District 1, 2, and 3 need to ask for native plants also, as District 4 and 5 have. So we need to have native plants put in all of our public areas. And we have supposedly, as far as artificial turf goes, I brought it up at the Planning Commission meeting. Residents are not actually supposed to be having artificial turf supposedly in their private yard, but they don't know that, and we don't have a really strong ordinance. I did see something written up recently that was actually had some teeth in it. And then as far as the Public Works Commission goes, the Parkway is under their preview, so if we could get them working on an ordinance that would not allow artificial turf within the parkway. We're planting trees, but I'm envisioning that one of our tree planters is going to go into the parkway and there's artificial turf. Are they actually going to be cutting a hole within that artificial turf and placing a tree in it? I mean, I can't imagine. I would hope so, but I can't imagine that that's how it's going to work. So that needs to be addressed with the tree ordinance. Thank you.
Anyone else in person? All right, Zoom?
We do have one, Craig Cadwalder.
Good evening, council members and staff. My name is Craig Cadwalder, and I'm speaking on behalf of the Surfrider Foundation South Bay chapter. And apologies for the up and down of my hand. Very confusing when this meeting was going to allow public comment. I wanted to address some specific items by goal, but I appreciate the efficiency of moving forward. Couple of items, water quality and the EWIMP plan. I would like to see in this somewhere, I don't know if it's under goal 3 or 4, but stormwater capture projects. I am chair of the South Santa Monica Bay Watershed Area Steering Committee, and your own Geraldine Trivedi is vice chair. We just both got reelected. I would like to see more stormwater capture projects that could be funded by the Measure W program. So I think that should be in there somewhere. Also, the plastic bags. I know we had a very robust discussion on this on April 19th, but Councilmember Abaji, there are some new ordinances being looked at for plastic bags that work around the preemptions on the statewide ban. So I know you've asked for feedback from your city attorney, and I'm sure that will explain some of that, but I would like to provide some example ordinances for you. The advisory board, I would hope that you might consider including NGOs, environmental organizations. For instance, Surfrider South Bay covers actually the entire southern part of Los Angeles County. So we speak for all the members. There are a great deal of them in Redondo Beach. So I hope we could have a seat at the table, as well as maybe Heal the Bay or Sierra Club or other organizations. But we'd really like to bring the information we have from many, many meetings, and we're in meetings every week with all these different organizations. I believe in cross-pollination, bringing the best ideas to bear. And so would love to share those with you. And regarding artificial turf, I know there are rebates offered by West Basin. I attend all the West Basin meetings, and I don't believe they make those rebates eligible for replacement with artificial turf. So you might want to look into those details. And overall, I love the strategic planning and great job on being efficient. I know it's not easy, and there are a lot of very strong topics here. So stormwater capture, the plastics ordinance on making those better, advisory board participation, and grass replacement without artificial turf and native plantings, I think should remain in the plan. And I appreciate your consideration on all the above. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
No one else, and no e-comments.
And no e-comments. All right, Councilmember Baji, quick comment or no?
Yeah, just Mr. Cadwallader, we did have an EWIMP discussion about a couple weeks back where the city set forth about, I believe, $20 million or more in plans to engage in more stormwater recapture, particularly in North Redondo from District 3 up. So it was a really great presentation, actually. So get back to our past meetings, you'll see that. Thanks.
Perfect. Okay. Want to thank everyone and staff here, and Garrick, I think we're going to release you. We'll see you on Thursday.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you, Eric.
Thank you to the public. Member staff will be back here. Well, opening at 5:30, but public-wise, we'll be here at 6 o'clock. So thank you for that time. And Councilmember Envy, it is 8:24. And if we would have had the other stuff.
24 minutes late.
No, actually, no, my comment is this. If we had just one item on there, non-agenda items, everything else stricken, we would have started 15 minutes sooner.
Okay.
Almost on
Point
time.
well taken. All right.
All right.
Motion to adjourn.
And just a reminder, 5:30 Thursday.
Till 5:30
All
on
in favor?
Thursday.
All right.
Sorry. Who seconded?
Second.
I didn't hear it.
He seconded.
Second.
Thank you.
We got to do closed session. That one also. Housing zone.
On Friday, on Thursday. Yeah.
We're actually adjourning this meeting at 6. We're going to have a separate meeting at 5:30.
You're welcome. You just need to.